Does accidentally uttering words of shirk remove one from Islam? Does accidentally uttering words of shirk remove one from Islam? The answer to this question is no. Accidentally uttering anything is not going to be taken as it's not going to be taken as serious or as accountable, with a few exceptions like nikah and talaq, where the Sharia is very strict about, and it says regarding three things: an-nikah wa talaq wa raj'a, that jidduhunna jidd wa hazluhunna jidd. Seriousness in them is serious and joking in them is also serious. But here we are speaking about an accidental pronunciation. And even in cases of talaq and nikah and so forth, if somebody were to utter something accidentally against their will, for example, or under the influence, assuming that the influence was a legitimate one based on medical need or the like, that they will not be considered valid and would not be counted. Because in Islam, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, actions are according to the intentions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very clearly states in the Quran in Surah 33 verse number 5 that there's no blame on you for what you do by mistake, but only for what your heart had intended, deliberately, of course. So that should settle it, inshallah. But broader than that, I also want to address, or use this as an opportunity to address, a growing phenomenon of people fearing that they are committing shirk, or fearing that they have uttered words of shirk, or fearing that various aspects related to shirk, or the pronunciation of the Quran, or matters of ablution and prayer, and all of these things have their real, genuine problems. But the rise of problems that I'm speaking of is predominantly around waswasa, or what is more specifically known in a contemporary context as religious scrupulosity. This being within the role of answering questions at Seeker's Guidance, we find that many people are afflicted by this, and it is a dreaded spiritual cum psychological illness that's often diagnosed as OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder, but specifically in relation to religious rituals, and therefore it's called religious scrupulosity. And it is a trick of shaitan. It is also a psychological disorder, and it requires that application and that type of framework to deal with this illness. What you will not succeed in as far as treatment is concerned is by probing further in fiqh and aqidah to try and figure out the problem that you think is a fiqh or aqidah problem, because it isn't, right? For the person who asks questions about whether their hands are clean after they made istinja, and the water that they rinsed off their hands, and then does that contaminate the water in the basin, and then when the water splashes in the basin, does that then contaminate their hands? And there are some more questions like this coming up. So it's important for us to understand that if you are affected by these, waswasa matters, that you understand you are not going to get to a resolution, you're not going to be able to resolve it by means of seeking religious fatawa. It requires spiritual mentorship, so you require a spiritual guide to deal with the spiritual elements of what you are facing, so protection from shaitan and the like. But it also requires a degree of psychological examination. What exactly is it that you are falling into, and what type of psychological issues do you face? So a holistic approach to these matters is going to be far more beneficial for you, and Allah knows best. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.